Alright guys, so let's have fun with this and let's start learning in context here. So this is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match. Obviously you've probably started learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or maybe you've thought about learning it and you want to get a little bit more information. Okay, so we're going to start learning all from grappling tournaments and rounds inside of the gym. So we'll get started with this one here. Typically you're going to see guys start, now they don't do it here, but typically what you're going to see is a slap and a bump. Okay, and I'm going to start making new terms in here, and as I do that I'm going to write these down. Okay, so we're going to make this and bump. Okay, so typically that's very common. Okay, yeah, chances are your school is going to be doing it if you're training anywhere. For the most part, slap and bump before each round. Okay, that's just a common thing that happens. For some reason it doesn't happen here. This is a little bit of an older match. You can see that they're using like kind of a jigsaw tatami mats. These things are very hard. Chances are your school does not have these because they are very hard. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Very hard. Okay, and so a lot of times you don't see people use these anymore. Okay, these ones here, we'll see more tatami mats, which are kind of these longer rectangles, right? Or you might see roll-out mats, but anyways, they're a lot softer than these. Okay, so we have our first action here. So this guy dropped to his butt like this. Here's the term that we're going to use for this. It's called pulling guard. Okay, or dropping into guard. Okay, so let's add that to our list. Okay, so he doesn't get any points for this, but what he is doing is most likely he is either better from this position, from this bottom position, and going to work to sweep this guy and get on top, or maybe use this for a submission on bottom. Okay, or he's worried about the gentleman on top maybe getting a submission on him, or excuse me, a takedown on him. Okay, now the problem is that you have to usually at tournaments get some sort of grip on that person and then drop down. You can't usually just drop down. Now it depends on the tournament. Each tournament is going to be a little bit different. Now that's starting to become more of a thing. So as he drops down, notice this time he actually gets his grips first and go. Okay, and so that's a new term that we need to add as well. Okay, so grips. Grips is essentially going to be anything where I'm taking my hands and I'm grabbing either the sleeve, so maybe, so I'll start putting some of these down here, a sleeve grip or a collar grip or a pant grip. Okay, and usually that should make sense. It's a little bit too big, but we're going to say, let me just do it this way: sleeve, collar, band. Okay, so, and that's going to be a majority of the grip. Now inside of there's going to be a lot of different variations. There might be pistol grips, there might be monkey grips, all sorts of stuff, way of grabbing it. But like essentially, if they're asking for a sleeve grip, you're grabbing their sleeve. If they're asking for a collar, you're grabbing their collar. Okay, if you're asking for a pant grip, you're grabbing their pants. That's pretty much the gist of it. So now he dropped, right? So he doesn't get any points for this. The gentleman on top doesn't get any points for this. Unless maybe, say, he dropped down at the same point as him going for a takedown. Okay, so takedown, that's a new term for us. Go ahead and add that to the list here. And again, some of these you're probably very familiar with. Some of these you might not be. So I'm going to, in this other column over here, I'm going to start putting in some of the points. Okay, so at most tournaments you're going to get 2 points for a takedown, 0 points for a guard pull. Okay, some tournaments you're actually like you receive negative points for pulling guard, but I'm guessing not at this tournament. So Now we're going to start talking about this. You see this gentleman's trying to go around the outside of this guy's legs. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is what's known as a guard. Okay, there's a bunch of different guards. Pretty much guard just means that you're trying to control that person with your legs and your body. Okay, and then this gentleman is trying to pass around his legs to get onto the side. Okay, so adding in some more terms here. So guard, and there's a ton of guards. So there's closed guard, half guard, butterfly guard, and we'll stop for there for right now. Okay, there's a much more, but those are a good couple ones. Okay, and then there's guard passing and guard retention. So let's talk about that. So when you're on top, you're trying to pass guard. Okay, when you're on bottom, you're trying to retain your guard, usually when you're in a guard position. Okay, and again, you can be in a bunch of different positions, but when you're trying to control that person with your legs, it's called a guard. Okay, so right now this person on bottom in the black is in the guard. This person on top, is in that's trying to pass is in that's in blue. It is trying to pass guard. Okay, and you'll see that he has, just to talk over this again, he has a collar grip and a sleeve grip. Okay, we're going to go over these terms a bunch so maybe they start to make sense. Now, this person is trying to go to the outside of his legs. So a lot of times people will refer to this as outside passing. Okay, so let's put that in as a term real quick. And so you can start to generalize some of this guard passing. Again, guard passing is when you're on top and trying to get around their legs in some fashion. You can kind of start to change this by saying, okay, you can categorize it by, am I going around the outside of his legs? Am I going in between his legs? Am I going underneath of both of his legs, or am I going over top of his legs? Okay, and that's pretty much the 4 ways that you can get around his legs. Now, the person on bottom is going to desperately try to keep his legs in front of here and maybe look for a submission from here. Okay, so right there you'll start to see that he's looking for a submission. This is called an omoplata. Could just be going for the setup, but who knows. So we'll talk about that omoplata later. I don't want to add that quite to the list just yet. Oh, and now you see him drop him down. Now, we're going to talk about this real quick. So he picks him up. So as he's starting to pass, he picks him up. So he gets a little bit of distance underneath of his body. Okay, and that's the big indicator here. And then boom, comes down. Now, the ref is going to come in now, because that's what's called slamming. Okay, it wasn't a very hard defense at all. So warnings for slamming. Okay, some tournaments you can get disqualified immediately for that. Usually it's based upon their belt level, so they're blue, so it's not like they're not super advanced, and it wasn't like a huge, it was probably maybe a foot, right? Sometimes you'll get the person picked up all the way up, drop them on the back of their head. That's an immediate DQ. There's no warnings, anything like that. So the referee in this case could have just said, nope, that's a DQ. At a major top tournament, maybe it would be, just because I think they sometimes try to, get the guys in and out of there so fast. But this one, you're going to see the ref come in and let them go. And, just kind of saying, hey, you can't slam, especially on like these super thin mats. It probably hurts. Okay, so then they start going again. And now let's go back. Okay, and once he starts them again, we're going to stop it here real quick. Right. Boom. Okay, so what kind of grip does blue have right now? Give you a couple seconds. A pant grip. Yep, so we've talked about this. He has a pant grip. What kind of grip does the person in the black have? What's this person have? This grip here. A sleeve grip, right? So again, collar grip, sleeve grip, pant grip, okay? But the top person can be doing the same thing. He's got grips on the pants, okay? So again, that's that pant grip. We'll go over the terms here real quick. Slap and bump, that's when you're going to bump, slap their hand. Bump, that's just the kind of international sign to grapple. Pulling to guard, you saw the guy in the black earlier do that. He sat to his butt. Make sure that you're getting control or getting a grip with them first before you drop to that guard position. A takedown is when you're taking them from the feet to their ground and they land on their butt usually, or their back. Close, there's a bunch of different guards, right? Guard just means when you're trying to control them with your legs. There can be closed guard, half guard, butterfly guard, and many more that we'll talk about here after that. Guard's one of the most versatile things, and half guard especially is one of the most versatile positions that we have in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Guard passing is going to be when we're trying to get around their legs, okay? When they're on their back and you're trying to get around your legs. Predominantly now that's done from standing. It used to be predominantly done from your knees. You can still do it from your knees, but predominantly done from standing now. Guard retention is going to be when you're trying to retain that guard. That gentleman's trying to pass, and you're trying to create layers of defense for you to be able to stop them from furthering that. Outside passing, we talked about that just a little bit. He's trying to go to the outside of that bottom person's legs to get around and pass around their legs. So their outside passing is a form of guard passing. Okay, so, and then 2 points for the takedown. We didn't see any takedowns yet, but there's 2 points for the takedown generally, and then 0 points for that guard pull. So right now the score is 0-0. Okay, and he did get a warning for slamming because he dropped him, lifted him up and dropped him down. Okay, so let's further on in the match here. And you see him start to do a good idea of passing here when we go outside passing, where he goes side to side here. So as he goes, you're going to see him throw the knees to one side, boom, and then his body to the other side. See how he does that? That's a good job. Usually you want to have the knees pointed in the opposite direction. Now, he didn't escape his leg out all the way around. So we're going to show this one more time here. So does a good job. Boom, legs are around this way. Okay, he's trying to pass the guard. Okay, he gets all the way around, but the guy on bottom does a good job of stopping him and getting his legs back around this way. Because when we're passing, is a good rule of thumb, you want to have their knees pointed away from them, and you want to go the opposite direction of their knees. Okay, but you notice he just barely hooks each time. Boom, just hooks this, and then now he's going to pull him into a position known as half guard. Okay, so you can see, boom, right there. Okay, so this is half guard, because if this leg was around and this leg was around, that would be called closed guard, or some people will call it full guard. Okay, this is half guard because I have one leg in controlling, or both my legs are controlling one of his legs. Okay, so we'll bring this back up here again. So this position is what's known as half guard. Okay, so half guard, again, probably the most versatile position in jiu-jitsu. Good rule for you to start to think about from this position. Usually you're going to attack in opposite ways, right? So if I'm holding this leg, I'm going to start to try to attack this arm usually, both from bottom and from top. So let's watch for a few more minutes here. Now, so the top gentleman here is trying to free his leg to be able to what again? So he's trying to get around their legs and get into a dominant position. So what was that called? Guard passing. Okay, one of the good concepts here of guard passing is starting to push those legs down and try to go over top. So you're just going to try to go bring this leg all the way up over top. We'll see if it happens. Gentleman on bottom didn't allow him to do that. That would be an example of guard retention. Okay, so guard retention is just when you're trying to keep that guard position. Okay, and he's trying to guard past the guard. You're trying to retain the guard. Okay, and you'll see, we'll go over this here real quick. So the gentleman in blue right here starts to stand up, and you'll see this is becoming more and more common, where he's having a struggle being able to pass the guard from here, so he opts to stand up, right? So you can get a little bit more mobility on your feet, and so he opts to stand up. So as he starts to stand up though, the the gentleman on bottom is able to switch positions. Okay, and then now what he's done is switched to an open guard position. Okay, so both legs are out. He doesn't have them locked behind. Okay, so this is called an open guard position. So let's go ahead and add that position. And again, there's a ton of guards. Okay, so let's call this an open guard. Okay. Later on, if his legs were locked and he gets a closed guard, that is the big difference there, if the legs are open or if the legs are closed. Okay, so he backs all the way out. So in this case, he breaks the guard. Okay, so that term, breaks the guard, is really just a term for you were able to open up his legs and get past his legs, okay, or get I shouldn't say past his legs yet. You've broken open his defense from there, but you haven't passed around the leg. A lot of times this is done more from a kneeling position where you're pushing that leg down. Okay, just to reiterate here, we got a few more minutes. Let's talk about this. What kind of grip is this? Is it a sleeve grip, collar grip, or a pant grip? Should be a collar grip. Okay, and this is a sleeve grip. Top gentleman here has a pant grip. Okay, grips are super important. Okay, and if we're talking about this, realistically, what he should be doing is breaking these grips off. Okay, before he starts to pass. But we'll go more into that later. Okay, we talked about this concept already, but as he starts to pass, okay, so he stands up and watch the knee positioning here. Which way are the bottom guy's knees? The bottom guy's knees are pointed this way, or I guess more specifically this way. Okay, and top guy in the blue is passing around this way. Okay, it's a good concept to start to think about. Now he establishes some top position here, okay, and he's almost in side control. Now side control is when you're on the side of the person, and this is probably going to be the last term we're going to talk about here real quick. Is side control, right? So side control is when you're on the side of the person. Now it's really up to the discretion of the ref. You know, for good side control, we need to have their back flat on the mat. Because he turned away like this, I'm guessing the ref's probably not going to give him points quite yet, but you're really putting your black gi is really putting himself in a compromised position here, because now not only could he get points for the pass, right, but he could also get his back taken. Now let's talk about that. We didn't really talk about the points. So for this section, so we're going to add this in here. 3 points for the guard pass, and 4 points for the back, and then 0 points for side control. Okay, so it has him in a kind of a modified side control position. Now the reason that I say that like this is iffy is the fact that, like, let's look at this here. So he passed his guard, right? So he's going around to the side. Now if he gets him flat on his back, he gets how many points for that? Okay, he gets 3 points for that because he passed around this guard, right? But the scary thing of this situation, or is that he's turned away. Now if this guy in the blue ends up taking his back, then what happens is the gentleman in the blue is awarded 3 points for the pass, just like before, but then also 4 points for back, right? So sometimes it's better to just take the 3 points and go to your back, because then you get 0 points for side control, right? Whereas the other guy would get 4 points for taking the back if he rolls over. So we'll see what happens next time on this. We're going to stop it here at a minute 30. A lot of action already in our minute 30. That made a 20-minute video for us. We're going to go through these concepts real quick, or these terms real quick one more time. Slap bump, again, that's when you're taking your hands, slap and bump your partner and then start rolling. Pulling to guard is basically when you're going to sit your butt. You don't feel comfortable maybe doing a takedown, or you feel better from your guard position on getting sweeps and submissions from there. Grips, you can have a collar grip, a sleeve grip, a pant grip, and then later on we're going to get into the smaller, minute details of those. Okay, takedowns are basically whenever you're taking somebody from standing position to a bottom position when they're laying on their back or their butt. Guard, there's a bunch of different guards, but for right now we're doing closed guard, half guard, butterfly guard, and we started talking about open guard as well. Guard passing is when you're trying to go around the legs. Okay, so they're on bottom and you're trying to go around their legs. Okay, guard retention is basically when you are trying to retain that guard. You're trying to not let them get past your guard. Okay, outside passing, we talked a little bit about this so far, is where you're trying to bring the knees to one side and the legs to the other side, and you're going around that person's legs. Okay, open guard is basically when they're standing up and you don't really have like open guard. You're going to see this later as more of a overarching theme for different positions, but for right now it's basically when your legs are kind of straight out and you don't have your legs crossed behind. Okay, closed guard would be when you have your legs wrapped around their hips and your ankles crossed around their back. Okay, breaking the guard is when that opens up. Okay, so when the closed guard, generally the legs are like locked on the ankles and the back. So like for a closed guard, you need to have your ankles locked around them and back, right? If you're breaking their guard, most likely you're unlocking those legs. Okay, now side control is when you're on the side of the person, most likely in a perpendicular position. So if they're laying this way, like if their head's on this side, this person's going to be drawn amazing too. This head's on this side and here, I would then want to hold side control on this position, on the like perpendicular pretty much. Okay, this would be side control. I get 2 points generally for a takedown. Again, this is for IBJJF pretty much, and a lot of other tournaments too. 3 points for a guard pass. So again, a guard pass is when you're going around the legs. Takedown is when you're trying to take them from a standing position to a bottom position. 4 points for taking the back. Okay, so if you're on the back of that person, later on we're going to talk about some of the details of what you'll need to get those points. And then 0 points for side control, okay, and 0 points for guard pulls. And then he got a warning for slamming because he picked him up and then dropped him down without control. Okay, a real note, really quick on this too, whenever you get a guard pass, typically you have to hold one of these top positions. So side control or back for right now would be the two that we've already talked about. You'd have to hold that for 3 seconds. Okay, all right, well, thank you very much for tuning into this. Hopefully it's been helpful. We're going to go back to the same match for the next episode and then continue down that road and start learning some of these names and details.